it's very much a practice, right? I don't do this perfect. I will never do this perfect. It's always a practice. Um, and this week will really be much more about it's more direct. So the integration statement for this week is emotion is sensation. Yeah, some nods here. Emotion is sensation, and and this is where we start to delve. So it was like be here now be here, cool, yeah, everybody's down with that. Like I'm present, I'm in the moment. Look at me. Um, to like the world exists within us, right? Like oh, it's a mirror thing. Now it's just like emotion is sensation. Okay, it's just sensation. It has to be right. It's like it you. What else would you explain it as? Right? It's not. It's a sensation. It's something that exists within you, and every time you have an emotion, there's an accompanying sensation. That's just the way it exists, and that's different than like there's like a way you could say like oh there's a physical feeling, right? There's like physical feelings that we have. There's just physical sensations that we have. There's mental thoughts that we have, and that emotion is kind of like all of that energy that exists within us, physical, mental, all of that comes onto this emotional sensation, right? And when we start to see when we start to see emotion as sensation, I love that it says love right up there, right? That's a great one, right? But it's a sensation, and I don't mean to like discount emotions in any way, but I think to start to look at how emotions start to come as sensations within us, right? And when we get sort of when we get triggered, and what I would say is that like so we've become conditioned for certain emotions. We've become conditioned for certain sensations, and we have these emotional sensational patterns within us that now become our kind of modus operandi for existing out in the world. And so if I were to say to any one of you, think about your dad, think about your parents, right? Like all of a sudden there's like, what the fuck, right? Like, oh, there's something there. And maybe there's nothing there. And that's a problem too. Right? It's like maybe there's nothing there. But every single day, every single moment, we're interacting with that world, right? The world's out there, but it's in here. As soon as it comes in here, it starts to create sensations. It starts to create these movements. And depending on how you've been conditioned, right? If you've conditioned yourself over the past 15 years, 20 years, that when that alarm goes off in the morning, you get up and you get those kids and you get them out of the house and you get ready and you get like that's a pattern that's not going to be easy to shift. But what we're trying to shift to is not to go right into the automaton, right? Right into the inauthentic, like do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, get lunch, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, commute home, right? Maybe I have some chocolate, maybe I have some wine, maybe I have some sex that makes me feel better, right? But did I ever really feel during that day that I was authentically myself? And what does that even mean, right? And the only way we're going to start to get at that is to start to dissect and kind of sense, really start to catalog, start to sense, like, what are these sensations that within me, right? What does it feel like to be April? What does it feel like to be Paul, right? Like, what does that feel like? And what takes me away from that, right? What takes me away from that sensation of Jeff, right? And that inner sense, being able to stay in that space where I'm Jeff and I'm not pissed off Jeff, right? I'm not depressed Jeff. I'm not overwhelmed Jeff, right? I'm not lesser than Jeff. I'm just Jeff, right? To be in that space and not have the comings and goings of the world pull me out of that constantly and have to try and like use things to get me back in, right? That's really the secret in what we're trying to do here. That's really the secret in getting around to like experiencing magic, right? Because when we can get to that space where I have that authenticity, I have that sensation of integration, and I can experience that and manifest that in my life, and I can trust the universe that whatever it's giving me out here is entirely required and necessary for me to understand this more. Then I have humility, right? I have gratitude, I have trust, and what will start to occur out in the world is all magic, right? It's all meant to be. I might not like it, right? I might not be happy about it all the time, but I get it. And what it's doing is it's just making me more and more and more who I am, right? Back in 2013, this was when I first started, like, this was probably like when I first started. I was sober for probably almost 2 years at that point. So I used marijuana like all my life, right? I smoked weed like a champ. Like, I love smoking weed. Oh man, it was great. But at a certain point, I realized that like I wasn't who I was meant to be anymore, right? Like that usage of that substance was keeping me from being fully myself. And so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna get sober. I'm gonna get clean. I'm not gonna use drugs anymore. And I had to go to a 12-step program. I had to go to a group that could teach me how to do that. And I learned, and it was great. And about 2 years into that journey, I took that journey with another person. And about 2 years into that journey, we were living together. We were partners. We had been partners for like 3 or 4 years before that. She got diagnosed with lung cancer. And most of you know this story. A lot of you were with me for it. She got diagnosed with lung cancer. And, you know, lo and behold, 10 months later, right, she went into another dimension. She passed away because of all the cancer. And that was the first time, like, at that moment in my life, like, I experienced emotion as sensation like you cannot imagine. If you've experienced it, you know it. But like that completely changed me. And it gave me an appreciation for life that I will never be able to describe to anybody. I'll try, right? I'll try and give it to you guys, but that's when I really learned. That's when I really started to experience emotion as sensation and the power of emotion as sensation to transform our lives. Which is why to this day I still don't use any drugs. I don't other than caffeine. Other than caffeine, sometimes nicotine. But like they don't, like, I never want to again in any way blunt my emotions. No pun intended. Right? I can't, right? They're too powerful to me. They're too important. And they're too just absolutely critical to who I am as a person for me to want to destroy them in any way. And, you know, I still do little things, right? I still narc out on horrible TV shows, right? That are kind of good though. Yeah, yeah. I still like I do that, right? I mean, I still I've actually gotten much better at raging, I would say, over the past 8 to 10 months. Like I said last time, that was something I'm really working on, was like working with anger. And thankfully I have two beautiful teenage sons that like that, that give me more than enough practice on my anger and um, expectations for how a young man should act. And it's all just karma. It's all just coming back from what I did to my parents and my dad and trying to integrate that. But it's really for me it starts to become about, and we'll get to this more in the next few weeks. But as we start to go into now, okay, I have emotions, they are sensations, what do I do with them? Right? How do I use them? How do I evolve from them? But that's not, that's not this week yet. Like we'll get there. There's still a bunch of more weeks to go. But this week is really about starting to experience your emotions as sensations, right? And then through this breathing practice, right? Through this, so if you start to get deep into that breathing practice, you start to have this kind of melding, right? Of like, so when I breathe deeply, when I breathe, I guess I'll say like impulsively, right? It's like, and I mean that in the like literal sense of the word. Like I'm pulsing, right? Impulsive, right? I'm pulsive, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm pulsing, I'm pulsating, I'm resonating, I'm vibrating. I'm trying to cultivate this quality or this integrity that's within myself that is truly me. And anything else that's there, I don't need it, right? I don't need it. And if it's coming into my life, if it's coming up inside me, it's to guide me. It's to take me to another place, another understanding, another integration, another cultivation of a different energy, a newer energy, a more refined energy, a more authentic energy. And that will be going on constantly throughout my life. Right? There's a certain energy that brought me here to finally share this with people. Right? That was a part of my integration. That was a part of my unfolding. And it's like it's like you've been given all of this stuff in your life, all of these little tiny moments that have accumulated to truly make you who you are. And if you absolutely feel like you're who you are, and you absolutely feel like every moment of your life you are leading from a pure heart, right, and a pure inner awareness, then I have nothing else for you. But if you don't feel like that's the case, right, we'll keep on going. We'll keep on working this. And I guarantee you can get there. Like, if I got there, you can get there. Like, trust me, like, I'm nothing special. Like, it's just like I was given these gifts from a bunch of different people, and now I get to share them with you. And it's very wonderful to be able to have people just sit here and listen to you as you talk about your experience, right? It's just great to be able to share that. Even though Holly's sleeping, we'll let her go on that one. Love you, Holly. So let's, I'll stop there and I'll open it up to questions. So I know I just went on kind of a long rambling spiel. People seem a little tired tonight, a little insulated. We could do a little bit longer of a meditation if you'd like that. Or I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas, things about what I just said? Yeah.
Okay, so my first question is, I know last week we were talking about too, what suicide is outside of you. And we talked a lot about taking in other people's emotions and other
Mm.
people's energies. And I'm curious if you, how you protect your sensitivity, how you maybe don't take in as much as what other people are putting out.
Sure. So I'm just going to repeat it because I noticed on the recording last week that you couldn't hear people's questions, and so I would just talk, and it was like nonsensical. Um, when people ask questions, it was nonsensical. But so let me rephrase your question. You're asking, if we have this intimate connection with the universe, right? And we have this kind of mirror with reality. What do I do when other people's energy is uncomfortable and when I don't want to be around it? And so a couple things I would say about that. One is if you like, don't stay in situations that make you uncomfortable unless you feel like there's a purpose for you to be with that discomfort, right? And it's not like, and the way I would say it is, and this is the way like one of the guys I love, Michael Brown, used to talk about it. He'd be like, don't shoot the messenger, right? Like if somebody triggers you, if somebody brings up emotion within you, don't start like railing on that person, or don't start like, blaming them for the emotion that you're having. Like, just be like, excuse me, I am feeling a little overwhelmed. I'm feeling this is getting very intense. I'm going to walk away now. I'm going to go take, and, or just walk away, right? Don't even explain it to them, just leave. And that, that's kind of the first step. And then the second step is what you were talking about of like, I love this thing of these people that are like, I put up my aura and I have to make my aura bulletproof so that I don't get negative energy inside of my aura. Who the fuck are you? Right? Like, grow up. And don't get me wrong, like if that works for you and that's your story, by all means, like go with it. My version of that story is that, right, I'll go so far as to say, right, to me, I don't know if any of this exists. I don't know if it's even real, right? I have no explanation for this. Nobody has any explanation for it. They can try and tell you something. It's bullshit. Nobody knows why this exists. So how do I know what this even is, right? When Josh, not you, Josh, but when a guy at work treats me like a dick and I get really heated because he's being pedantic, right? I don't know what that is. I have a story that whatever emotion that's arising within me is here to inform me and make me the best possible authentic self I can be, so I can create as much joy in the world as possible for as many people as I can. And that's what I do with my emotions. That's what I do with other people's emotions, right? I treat them like little plants, right? They're little plants, and you know what they need? They need to be watered. Their plants haven't been watered. They're dry little crusty little plants. And so now they're all angry. They probably got too much sun, right? Little nasty little soil, right? So what do? I water those plants. I give them a little bit of water. Here you go, buddy. Have some water. That's what I do. So,
Okay, so
I hope that answers your question.
when someone's being a dick to you, like, what do you say?
So it's very interesting. I don't always know, right? With Josh? Oh my God. No, with Josh? So it's really fascinating, right? It's amazing. I oftentimes use. So I've done a bunch of honesty classes, honesty salons. If you've never been to an honesty salon and you'd like to go to one, let me know. I have an excellent friend, Sophia, who leads honesty salons, and they're amazing. And it's all about learning how to communicate in nonviolent ways and staying on your side of the net when you're communicating. And it sounds like hokey pokey to begin with, but at a certain point, it's led me to be able to communicate with people in a way that is truly authentic. Because I can be like, Josh, like, I sense from the tone of your voice that, like,
I bet Josh hates you.
well, funny, like, I think I triggered him a lot to begin with, and this is what happened. Like, this is totally what happens. But at a certain point, he was like, you know what? Jeff's a pretty rad dude. Like, he's pretty emotionally mature, and he doesn't deal with people's bullshit, and he doesn't give people any bullshit. So, I like Jeff. And that was what happened, right? And in that, but that sense that, like, because I know who because I've cultivated this authenticity over years and years and years, like, that's what I meet people with. And it's not about what I say, it's about how I say it, right? It's not about what I do, it's about how I do it. I don't let them pull me out, right? I'm right here. Like, you can do all you want. It's so hard. Yeah, it's like deadlifting 650, right? Like, how the fuck do you deadlift 650? You deadlift 135, and then you deadlift 155, and then you deadlift 175, and then No, I'm just kidding. Right? So, the question is, would you say emotional maturity is not reacting? No. Emotional maturity is reacting and then not projecting. Right? So there's a difference there. Like, I fucking react, right? Who doesn't? There's no way, like, the universe is not here to, right, make your life a walk in the park, right? I don't believe that it's been my experience that that's not why we're here, right? We're here to evolve and grow and develop. It's innate within everything we study in nature, right? That things evolve and grow and develop, right? That's just the way it is. And so why would we be any different? Why would our emotional maturity be any different, right? But it's reacting but not projecting. It's reacting but seeing that mirror and knowing it's not about them, it's about me. And that's what I've seen in my progression is that if I can look at that person and I can say, oh shit, it's not about them, it's about me. Whatever they're triggering in me, right? I need to go and work on that. All of a sudden, next time I talk with Josh, guess what? He's not pedantic. Weird. Why is that? Right? If I go and integrate it with myself, all of a sudden, my mom's not annoying and nagging me anymore. Right? All of a sudden, she's asking me about how Burning Man was. Right? And you're like, wow, she's not nagging me about, not having whatever. Right? But it's like, it's not about the world. It's about you. You're the fucked up one. Right? Like you gotta, at a certain point, you just gotta be like, okay, this is just going on. This is just happening. Like, I'm the one that's fucked up. And I still get triggered. Everybody gets triggered. Right? And that's the whole point. You want to get triggered. I know now that when I get triggered, that's the gold. Right? That if everything's just going smoothly and I'm getting my way, I'm just like, okay, I'm all right, let's dance. But I'm always like, okay, am I still developing? Am I ignoring something? Am I sort of avoiding something because I don't want to deal with that? And that's usually the case. And then I'll get back into it and I'll be like, okay, what's next? What's the next unfolding? What's the next evolvement that needs to happen in my life? And I think, at least in my experience, They've gotten softer and softer, right? For the most part, right? It's not as bad as it was 5, 6 years ago, where I just had my soul torn out, right? But that's kind of what you mean. That's why I said, like, if anybody's experiencing difficulties, if things are arising in your life that are super challenging, you wanted it. That's what you came here for.
You asked for it. You had it coming.
Well, your soul was like, I don't want to be little anymore. No pun intended, right? I don't want to belittle people anymore. I don't want to put people below me. I want to celebrate all of you. And I don't want to be little. I don't want to be little in myself anymore. I want to be full. And so, your soul's working with you. Whatever you call that. I don't have a better word for it. I wish I did. It could be just some weird mental programming of the brain that does that. And that's cool too. Who programmed that? Elon Musk. What's the question?
I have a question, sir.
The question is, in this authentic self, are there multiple aspects there, and how do I frame those aspects and define them? Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, and also, is there a wannabe aspect?
Oh, a wannabe.
Or are you stuck with one authentic
Oh,
self?
okay. And
Born rather, are you born with one authentic self?
Okay.
Or is there a job I want to be and you can cultivate yourself towards that job?
So, first question, am I born with one authentic self? And then, what about all the selves I am? Cool. A better question is, am I reborn with one authentic self, right? Am I reborn continuously with authentic selves? No. I can't explain this universe, right? I have no clue what's going on. I have no idea what's happening here. I just want to make that very clear, right? So whatever story you want to have for that, like, is perfectly approachable. My authenticity is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. But what I've learned through in the ways that it manifests, right? So, 4 or 5 years ago, it was authentic for me that I was going to go back into the corporate world, and I was going to get a corporate job, and I was going to work in finance and accounting again. And that's where I was, right? Now, 5 years later, it's authentic for me that I want to move in a different direction, right? It's still authentic. Whether I'm with my wife, whether I'm with my students, whether I'm with, seals on the beach down at Ana Nuevo State Park, right? It's all authentic. And what it is it's not an intelligence. It's not an intelligence in the sense that it's a mental idea of who I am. It's not like I'm trying to be authentic. It's that through my practice, through the dissolution of anything that is inauthentic, all of a sudden I've now developed authenticity.
It's a process, I think is.
Which is super hard to do, right? So April was saying that, the authenticity oftentimes comes from an undoing more so than a doing,
Yes.
right? Is that you have to undo all this stuff.
Layers and
Yep.
layers, many years of.
And there's a great Zen Buddhist term for this, which is called Niet, Niet, Niet. And what it means is it means not this, not this, not this. Because it's like, what is enlightenment? Well, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. And when you finally get through all the not thises, that's enlightenment.
I'm sure it's Buddhist,
Yeah.
because Niet is no in Russian.
Yeah.
Well, good. That's and tire is tire in Spanish, right? Right? But yeah, that and again, with the do you have one authentic self, like I could spend a whole hour talking about my views on consciousness and manifestation and what this is. But again, that's a whole other ball of, stuff that is like just, it's way out there.
It's subjective.
It's
right?
way out
You
there.
can't say you're not being authentic. Like that's not mine.
Oh no, I can tell when people aren't authentic.
Well, not okay. You're not being your authentic self.
You're always the funny thing is like you're always being yourself. Right? You can't not be yourself. Right? There's no other Michael. Right? You're always being yourself. Is that self that you're being in this moment, right? Fully integrated. And I know these terms are so hard. All you need to do is keep on sitting and breathing like a mofo, and like eventually you'll just be like, oh, that's what he was talking
And
about.
I was also about to ask, but can you talk about integration? And now you
Right?
choose
Like
integration.
all these stuff, it's like it's so like I can play these mental gymnastics, right? But my biggest fear is that like, and this is what a lot of us do, is like when we get these sensations, right? Going back to emotion as sensation, right? When we get these sensations, what do we do with them? Right? What do we do with them? And do we try and narcotize ourselves? Do we rage? Do we become... I have a great friend that is the most pretentious dickbag on the planet, right? And what I mean by that is he takes his emotions and then he analyzes them and he understands them and where they came from and where they arose from, and he puts himself on a pedestal because of that, because he's so understanding of how things arise within. And if you're having an emotion, you just need to mentally understand where that arises from and how it is created. And he gets triggered all the time. And then he calls me and he's like, Jeff, I just yelled at a guy at the gym because he told me to take off my flip-flops. Right? And I'm like, really? How'd that go? And then we go into the whole story, right? But it's like you can mentalize these things to try and discount them, right? You can use substances, you can use relationships, you can abuse people, you can use yoga, you can use physical activities, right? To try and get away from these things. There's so many manipulative mechanisms and defense strategies that we have for just avoiding what we're feeling and feeling what we're avoiding, that's where we have to take 10 weeks to just break that down, right?
Just breathe whenever you're okay.
Well, and that's where the magic happens, right? That's where the magic happens, is where I can sit with that emotion, and that's what I was talking about. Like, I don't let people take me out of myself anymore because I've ingrained, and maybe that's a better word than integrated, right? I've ingrained this phenomena of felt inner sense so deeply that there's not a lot that can shake me out of that, right? There's not a lot of financial troubles. There's not a lot of scary shit, There's not a lot of stuff at work, right? That really shakes me out of that. And there may be things that call me to action, right? Where it's like, oh shit, this thing happened, and then I feel it, right, as fear, or I feel it as anxiety. And it's like, yeah, it's just showing me somewhere that I need to put some more attention, that I need to put some more awareness to. And that's the way I see them now. They're like little beacons, right? They're like little GPS navigation things that come up in you that as emotions that are like, hey, maybe you should look at this, right? Maybe you should put your awareness here. And then you bring it up and you breathe into it. And we'll talk about this more in the coming weeks of how we start to look at these patterns and how we start to take these patterns and transform them back into freedom. And use that magic of where I'm getting emotion and I'm getting sensation, and then I'm taking breath and I'm taking consciousness and I'm putting them together. And it's like medieval alchemy, right? Where I'm pouring molten lead onto butterflies and bees, and all of a sudden it's turning into gold. Right? That's what it is, right? That's what's happening, hopefully.